Hi, Rich Daly from DynoPort. Been around for a few years now, actually since Spectro started. Raced a lot of dirt bikes. Actually, I've worked with a lot of great riders back when we were doing a lot of pipes. Doug Henry comes to mind on his old YZ125. So anyhow, Dennis Millis here. He's a Motohead, like most of you guys. Dennis has driven me nuts over the years, called for advice, which is fine, but he called me a week or two ago and was desperate for a pipe. And he said his bike ran very good, and said the bike revved very good, had good power, ran good in first, second, and third, but wouldn't pull fourth or fifth. So I was a bit rude. I said, Dennis, whoa, hang on. You said it'll run good in first, second, third, and it's a 500. The reason it runs good in first, second, and third is you have no horsepower. When you shift into fourth gear, the damn thing won't go. So then he told me some famous Honda guy had built it, and yeah, I don't know who the hell the guy was. Never heard of this clown. So, but he's one, I think you said he was one of the best Honda engine builders in the world, is what you told me.
Yeah.
So next thing I know, I quizzed Dennis a little more. He only lives 30 miles from me, and here he's been bugging me all these years. Never spent a nickel, right, Dennis?
No, no.
Yeah, lives in Cato. So, right next to my brother's place, probably. So anyhow, so Dennis, I said, Dennis, have you ever had another CR500? He goes, oh yeah, I had this and that. So he's a CR500 kook. And he goes, I go, how'd they run? He goes, they run great. He goes, I milled 30 off the head. I go, Dennis, you took 30 off the head and you can still ride it? He goes, oh yeah. So now I'm liking Dennis. Dennis can ride a CR500 with the head milled 30. So I said, Dennis, let's go back to your other dilemma. The bike this famous guy built for you, does it have more or as much compression? He goes, oh no. He goes, it's got less compression than stock. So I said, Dennis, take the head off your old beater and put it on your, your famous bike. So Dennis did. He calls back. He goes, Rich, it runs great. He goes, yeah, I'm going, yeah, you probably don't need a pipe now, do you, Dennis? He goes, well, it actually runs pretty good. So I said, well, good, Dennis. I said, now do me a favor. Gear it up a tooth, because then you'll shift less. So the point of the story is, Dennis didn't need all the stuff he was fleeced into. They sold him a bill of goods. They told him he needed, Nicosil liner. To do that, you put in an aluminum sleeve. Well, the problem when you put an aluminum sleeve in, guys, number one, if you're riding a CR500, trust me, unless you're out in the desert with my old buddy Malcolm Smith, you don't need any more power. And Malcolm even told me he likes a linear power band. So when you put that thicker liner in, you're losing transfer port volume. Because this is a skidoo. But when you put the liner in, you're thicker than stock. So let's get to some of the myths. And this is what bothers me. Dennis is a good guy. Works for my buddy Roland over at Tessie. So he spent a lot of money on nothing that worked. So let's go to some basics. And Dennis mentioned about overheating. Your bike is cooled by your radiators. End of discussion. You don't need a fancy cool head or any of this. It might make 10 degrees difference. It's like spitting in the wind. The only thing we've learned out of this, is a Nicosil liner better than your cast that's boreable? Yes. It's a little harder. It doesn't wear as much on a CR500, and it's a minute horsepower difference. On a CR500, you don't want to go through the aggravation. The other thing Dennis mentioned is the liner moved on them. So you had to send the cylinder back. It's pretty common for liners to move. They've got to be held in a press after they're done. It's very hard to do a liner correctly. The other point I want to make, and this is what I call the Motohead theory. Once I became a professional snowmobile racer, got the NHRA mile an hour record at 160.50, 18,000 dyno runs. By the way, I quit using the dyno on the motorcycles. Our success was we went out in the field, we rode them, the power band, we know what the pipe does. A lot of our pipes, a stock pipe will make more power. By the way, I tell everybody a stock bike is designed for a top expert. Most of your top experts can ride it. We've gone in and made wider power bands with a pipe. So let's go back to Dennis's situation. He's now got a bike that works very well. He can now go in and fine-tune it with the jetting, the gearing. He doesn't need a pipe for me. Pipes are personal. And the main reason I'm doing this is to educate you guys who ride motocross. Motocross is mostly the rider. You adjust your suspension. There's some good suspension guys out there. If you need motor work done, go to a guy who's going to clean your ports up, maybe give you a touch of compression. We'll touch on gas. When you were talking to me, I said, Dennis, please tell me you're not using 100 octane gas with low compression. He goes, well, I'm using 100 octane. The 100 octane is fine for his head cut 30. Your horsepower is made by heat. These CR500s were designed to run across the Sahara Desert on pumped gas. They don't need high octane. You don't need high octane on your motocross bikes unless you run into a pinging situation. So I want to tell you a quick, funny story. This is an 89 to 90, or 87 to 90 KTM 500 pipe. I had a kid from Arizona call me. He was mad. The bike wouldn't wheelie as hard as the stock bike. So Mike Rosso from KTM, and I was working with him at the time with the pipes, called me. I said, Mike, we're redesigning it. He said, Rich, really? He goes, the two top riders from Europe just called and ordered 2 of your pipes because Mike Healy had this same pipe I have in my hand. He goes, by the way, that the squirrel in Arizona wheeling doesn't like, Rich. And they ordered 2 pipes because Mike's bike hooked up better at Carlsbad. So here you have some of the best riders in the world liked my pipe with a smooth power band. The kid that wanted to wheelie did not. They were both correct. You need to remember that as a motocross rider. The other incident I'll give, Chris Coleman, a top local guy who went on to be a very good national rider, had one of our KX250 pipes in the 90s with no center section. The pipe revved to the moon. It was just, I liked riding it. I sent one to Mickey Kessler, who was a top national rider, and Kurt McGann out of New England, a Kawasaki Team Green guy. They called me up. They hated the pipe. I didn't have as much knowledge in. I said, well, geez, Coleman's beating you in a little quicker. But they were both right. Chris wasn't a big clutch guy. He was on the gas. He'd come into the corner. McCann and Kessler, both excellent riders, different riding style. They come into the corner a gear high, hard on the clutch. They needed the center section. Dennis, the main reason we did this is for guys like you out there spending your hard-earned money. Go ahead and add a couple things that you've learned on this for your friends, and thank you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I learned that I was getting sick and tired of playing with my jetting all the time. I never had to play with my jetting as much on any of my 500s as I did with this one here. And ever since I did the cylinder work and the head work, that's all I ever had was jetting problems. I had no power. The bike would rev, but I had no power at all. And it was a fast bike. It's a CR500, of course. It's fast. It would still outrun the 450s, but it was just unappealing to ride. It was not a typical CR500 power band. It was more like a 250, and I'm tired of it. And the starting issue was terrible. Even with the decompression valve, it felt like an 85cc dirt bike. It had no compression to start. I had to always choke it.
Okay, I'm going to butt in, Dennis.
Yeah.
Here's the head, and here's the other thing, guys. The one thing I've learned over the years, especially once I started racing these snowmobiles, is the factory designs are good. So this guy went in, he cut in to he ruined the squish, basically. He took 3 cc's out. I machined this down 60 thou last night for Dennis. I had to go 30 or 40 to get back to where the hell it was in the beginning, and then, like Radical Dennis, I went another 30. So now you can put the head back on the other bike. So Dennis, I think we all learned from this. You did nothing wrong other than the guy. A lot of these guys are good salesmen. And guys, think about it. You have a very good bike. Fine tune it. Get somebody to give you a reasonably priced port job if you want a port job. Try a couple different pipes. Gear it, jet it, and have fun. Thank you.